Welcome to Inside Plug, the podcast where independent creators and entrepreneurs connect and inspire. I'm Devon Jones, a military veteran turned filmmaker. I found my spark in the military, and now I'm here to help you find yours. Inside Plug is a platform for your voice, stories to be shared, and ideas to flourish. Let's dive in and plug into creativity and entrepreneurship together. Today on our show, we have actor Dan Shaquet. He played in a short film, Let Me Assist You. He played the character Jason. He also have a good amount of films that he played in, and he would share all that with us today. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really honored that you have me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. Just want to make sure I got it correct. Did I pronounce your last name the right way?
You did. I think you're the 1% that actually gets it on the first try, and I'm not sure if you heard it somewhere else, but that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Glad I did that. Actually, no, I haven't heard anyone pronounce your last name. Glad I was able to nail that down. All right, Dan, welcome to the show. So you was here the last time we had the podcast going, and we want to welcome you back. If you can catch us update on how you've been so far.
Well, I've been great. I'm just coming off of a TV series. I just filmed 7 episodes on a mini series that's untitled right now. It's called the Untitled Lionsgate Oliver Masucci Project. We filmed it in Israel, and it will be filmed also in Europe. It's in 3 languages: English, German, and Hebrew. And the cast is fantastic. It's about it takes place in the 70s. About the Holocaust and the hunt for Dr. Josef Mengele, who was a Nazi, who was a doctor Nazi, who was genetically mutating Holocaust people in the Holocaust, and the hunt to find him because he escaped Europe and went to live abroad. So I played the one and only American on the show. I speak English in it, and I can't give away too much, but it was an amazing experience to film it with an international cast from all over the world.
Nice, that's awesome.
So yeah.
All right. So if you can bring the audience back a little bit. So let's start from the beginning. So how did you get into acting, and what inspired you?
Wow. Well, I've always been a creative kid. I was naturally watching the news a lot. And after watching the news, I would write down what happened in the news and then deliver it in a performance to my parents and their friends in the living room as if I was a newscaster. And I'd also come up with commercials in between. I'd use things from the house. I was creative, costumes and stuff. My mom put me in a children's theater called the Boston Children's Theater, which is actually a professional children's theater company. And from there, I got an audition. A recruiter came to see me. A casting director came to see me. It was like, I think it was 6th grade. It was for a movie to play Demi Moore's son, who I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt got the part. I didn't get the part, but that kind of sparked things for me. And I did theater and throughout high school, and then I auditioned for NYU. I went to Tisch for drama. I got a BFA in that, and everything else is history. I graduated and kind of started to hustle and bustle in New York City. Lived there for about 5 years after college. Got a couple of guest stars on that. I had a guest star in ABC's Body of Proof, NBC's Mysteries of Laura, and in 2012, I decided to move to LA. And started going back and forth between LA and New York City for a while, and did a lot of theater in New York, continued doing theater, did a lot of indie films. I had a role with Ashton Kutcher in the movie Jobs, where he played Steve Jobs. I have a role in a movie called Mistrust with Jane Seymour. And I just started pounding the pavement on my own as kind of this like lone wolf and agenting and managing myself, figuring out how to get work, doing a lot of student films, grad films, independent films, readings, everywhere, anywhere I could. Started making connections abroad in Toronto and London and Israel, and just kind of anywhere I could get my hands on an interesting character or an interesting director that I'd met, I would work on it. I just said yes to everything. And here I am 20, maybe 18 years later, and I'm still doing it.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. So you say you have some experience in theater and you did some TV series. What would you say is like more challenging for either side?
Mm. Good question. I think well, they're challenging in different ways. Film is challenging, I think, because there is less of structure in terms of there's more space to be creative, but with that means you really have to be present and creative. Like you have to give it your all in that time. So that could be challenging because there's less structure, but you still need to get the shots and the story down. While with TV, there's more structure, but it's quicker and faster. So you feel sometimes it's like a hurry up and wait. You know, you could be told to come to set, but there's still a million things need to do, and then you're waiting, and then they're ready to film it, and then you got to be ready. It's much more rigid, time oriented, you know, and less time to discuss things. You know, less rehearsal. Well, with the film, you have a little bit more leeway with time to discuss things with the director. Maybe go off script a little bit. With TV, there's less of a chance to do that. So that's the big difference between the two.
Nice. Have there been any obstacles that you had to overcome on a film set or maybe in a theater production?
Definitely. You know, like I was trained, I went to, when I was at NYU, I was trained at Strasberg method acting. I was there for most of my time at NYU with an amazing teacher named Lola Cohen. And so I learned a lot of method acting, which was amazing. But the challenge is that you're living a life parallel to that while you're acting, whether it's theater and film. So I think the challenge is to find what's going on in your day-to-day life that works for what's going on with the project, and then figure out how to bridge the gap between what you're not bringing, what you can't bring to the character because it's not right for what you're doing, and finding a way to either compartmentalize what you're feeling, whether it's what you're going through with your family, your friends. You might be sick that day, you got in a fight with someone, and I might be doing a really funny, comedic, happy character that's not really thinking about those negative things. So I think that's the most challenging thing. And as you get older, you know, you go through a lot of stuff in your life. I have a feeling that you understand as someone as a military vet. I'm sure that you have some, you know, experience with ups and downs. I can't assume that, but maybe you know people that are going through that. But it's like assuming that you're going through some challenging times in your life, and you might not be able to bring that to the table that day based on the character. So figuring out how to center yourself, be mindful, doing a lot of breathing and centering that day that you are about to do a reading, let's say, and you're not in the mood, and you have to find a way to get in the mood. So that's been the hardest part, I would say.
All right. Do you have a creative routine? Like, what are some ways that you stay, you know, creative?
For me, traveling is a great thing. And I don't just mean like international traveling. I mean like discovering little gems around your area. I really enjoy novelty. I really go off of things that are new. I'm not someone that enjoys routine, even though routine is important for day-to-day life. But for me, like, even if I go out to a new park or a new garden or a new bar or a new restaurant, or I make a new connection to somebody creatively and I'll meet up with them for coffee, that really grounds me. Because it's still connected to being creative because I'm discovering something, but it's not directly related to the work. And I think some people can get really heady in their mind. And if I can overthink, for me, the best thing is to get out of my situation of overthinking, whether it's connecting with a friend or, yeah, maybe going for the weekend and getting on the train and going 2 hours away to a new town and discovering that town. So for me, novelty and experiencing something new takes me out of something. And then when I come back, I feel refreshed. So for me, that's how I refresh myself, is by discovering new things in nature, creatively, going to a play, going to a dance, an art exhibit, anything that takes me out of my own thoughts for the day, or routine. Because routine sometimes gets me, my mind starts to think with my left brain in terms of like technical things and what I need to get done, or how I start to overthink maybe something won't be the way it's supposed to be. And then the moment I do something different and that I have never done before, somehow magically I worry less.
Oops. All right. So where can people find more about you and keep up with your projects, see what Dan has going on?
Cool. You can find me on Instagram. It's my name, Dan, D-A-N, Shaked, S-H-A-K-E-D. Mostly Instagram, Twitter, and I have a website, www.danshaked.com. There you can see like a bunch of the films and projects that I've done recently. I did a film called Let Me Assist You, which was about I play a guy who falls in love with an AI like health guide. That's kind of like about how people are starting to turn to robots and dolls and things that are not human in order to find comfort and love. I think that's interesting. And I've done a couple of films like Highway 1 and Invisible Girl and Good Grief. Those are 3 films that I did with the same director named Jacqueline Bethany. And she's a fabulous director. So there you can find clips of that. And I have 2 films coming out, one called I Hereby Announce, which I also filmed in Israel, about an American guy who wants to bring his family to Israel and goes camping there for Independence Day in Israel and gets into trouble with a bunch of aggressive teenagers who are karaokeing in the woods. That's coming out. And I'm about to do a film also called Subway. And I play this homeless guy. That's why you can't see, but I have this huge beard right now. I don't usually have a beard, but it's really long. And I'm about to film that in mid-September about a homeless guy who has an encounter with 8 people on a subway in New York City. And it's called Subway. A bunch of other films I've done, and everything can be found on my website.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. All right. So I asked this question to all the guests who come on the show. If you can choose a book, a TV show, or a movie to recommend for aspiring actors, filmmakers, what would you recommend?
I would say the best show that I've watched, and I don't tend to watch shows over and over and over again, but when I do, that clearly means there's something deeper there for me. So for me, it would have to be Alan Ball's 6 Feet Under, HBO show that had many seasons many years ago, about a family that runs a funeral home. And every episode, there's a death that occurs at the beginning of the show that's unrelated to the family. And so you're watching the family deal with the death in the funeral home and all the guests that come, or the people that come to mourn that person that died, as well as dealing with their own family issues at the same time. It has David Krause. It has Francis Conroy. And I love that show. It is so well written. It's by Alan Ball. And it just deals with family dynamics really well. And there's always a character that someone can find. And I also think it's a great way to show aspiring filmmakers and writers about, show format and structure, how to write a show that can be on for many, many, many seasons. If you're looking for that, because it's always new and there's always something exciting, but there's always something that you always know you can go back to in terms of, it's like a procedural. And I think the dialogue is amazing. The siblings' relationships are amazing. The parents' relationship are amazing, even though the father dies at the beginning. Sorry, not really a spoiler. He's not really in the show that much anyways, because he's dead, but he does show up many times, like as a ghost. But that show is unbelievable, I think. And it has Michael C. Hall, I think, also in it. So that's a show that I would recommend, 6 Feet Under, HBO.
Nice. All right, go check that out, 6 Feet Under on HBO. All right. So earlier you mentioned that you like to travel. Do you have a favorite traveling spot that you visited, and when is the last time you've been there?
Ooh, I traveled to Japan, to Tokyo in 2019. I loved Japan. Other than the fact that it was just so forward thinking in terms of technology and hygiene and all that stuff and respect, and people were just so nice and so giving. I just loved walking around the city of Tokyo because for someone like me who loves overstimulation in terms of colors and instruments and robotics and all that stuff, every district was like a dessert. I don't know how to explain it. And it was a different dessert. Every district had a theme, and within the theme there were sub themes, and every time you thought you knew something about something, that district showed you something new that you went, I can't believe I've never seen this before. I mean, they had like a solution for everything in such a creative way. I think maybe that's what it is. There was so much creativity in Japan in terms of how to do things in ways that maybe some of us in America would never have thought of. It really inspired me to go, I thought that there should be a solution to that. And then when I got to Japan, I'm like, see, they thought of that. But they thought of that and that's in such a creative way. I mean, there was a creative solution to everything. And there were so many different versions of things. And I loved the anime district, and I loved, I don't know, it just was so fascinating, Japan, in terms of the way that they thought of the world, and I wish that our country would do the same. So I would highly recommend Osaka, Kyoto, taking the train, just walking around, going to a cat bar where you walk in and there's like 17 cats around you in the bars, open, kind of like an open zoo. The food is amazing. I would highly recommend. It's expensive, don't get me wrong, but if you can save enough money and go there for 10 days, I highly recommend Japan.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So you also mentioned that in one of your films, they have you as a character and you're having a relationship with AI. Now, with that technology and artificial intelligence, where do you see filmmaking in the next 5 to 10 years?
I had just had a friend call me who's an actor and said, listen, I don't know what to do. This is the first time that I've been proposed this, but they want to use my voice in a perpetual way. Can't say the word. But look, I think that there's going to be both. I think that there's going to be people who are going to find ways to use AI and be creative and make it a part of or a large part of their art, and they're going to infuse it, and that's okay. And then there's going to be people that are going to say there's nothing that can take the place of human interactions that are just simply human, and there's nothing that can trump that. And that's okay. I tend to go towards the side of not wanting to use it because I like family dynamics. I like relationships, things that I'm less into the world of AI and effects. I totally would be in a movie that has one. But if I were to write or direct a movie, that wouldn't be my style. So I don't think it's either or. I know that people have very strong opinions about it, and I completely understand everyone's opinion on it. We won't be able to stop AI, and I don't think people will stop making movies that have no AI in it. So I think it's a matter of taste. The question is, how will actors deal with it in terms of their contracts? If someone wants to use my voice forever, I have to find a way to use that to put that in my contract, just like I would if someone were to do a commercial and say, I want to use it for a year or for 2 years or for 3 years. Maybe I'll have to renew the contract and asked for more money because they'll be using it in a way that they won't be needing me ever again. So as an actor, that can be an issue as it is for SAG and for SAG-AFTRA. It's not going away, but that doesn't mean that people will be using it either, depending on your style, I think. So there's room for everybody, I think.
Nice. Thanks for that insight. All right.
Yeah.
So you have an aspiring actor. They're already going to the room for their first audition. What is something that you want to share with them before they go inside?
That knowing the lines is, sure, be familiar with the lines, but there's so much else going on with how the director and whoever, or the casting director or the team that's looking at you, they're looking at you from a holistic place as opposed to being right in terms of perfect. And that was something, as someone like me who can be neurotic, when I was first starting out, was I felt like I needed to be right. I needed to be perfect. I needed to get it the way that I thought it needed to be done. And after doing it for so long now, and after I get roles, I recognize, after I spoke to directors or writers or casting directors, that really wasn't really what they were looking at. They, if you mess up lines or you give a different version, you give a take that's different than what they initially thought maybe, but it kind of happens sporadically because of something that happened in the room, then sometimes that's the thing that's going to book you the role. So I would let go. My old self would say, let go of getting it right and look at the scenes as holistic. What is really going on holistically, as opposed to what do they literally need from me? And at the same time, I would say there's limits to what you should do, because they still are looking for you to do what they wrote on the paper. They want you to bring yourself, but they want you to bring yourself within the domain of what they wrote. And so you have to find and mix that. What's me? And what did they write? And how do I infuse myself given what they imagined as the character?
Nice. All right. Thank you so much for that insight. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Insight Plug. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it inspiring. Remember, every journey begins with a single step, and every creator has a story worth sharing. If you love what you heard, don't forget to rate and leave a review on www.insightplug.com. That's www.insightplug2gs.com. Remember, your feedback helps us bring you more content. Until next time, keep creating. Devon Jones signing off. Stay inspired. Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.